Hey guys, Colby here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are on the test server today. You see it on the top there with like a million gems. Yeah, it only happens on the test server. So I will be testing out Bivald, the fusion that we will have with patch 5.5 coming in. So Bivald of the Thorn is this guy right here. I've been testing him out and I think he is a great fusion, one of the best that we had so far. Not only in terms of progression, but because he has such a big kit that it allows for users not only from the early players, but also the mid game to end game players. I'm not going to say end game players, maybe late game players. It's a better word to say. The first part of this gameplay review and everything for Bivald will be on him with no books at all and barely any gear, just so we can see what his kit does. The masteries are very basic on him, so I went with War Master, and then through the support tree I went all the way down to lasting gifts, so I could get those extra duration on his buffs, not only his strengthened buff that he applies to himself, but also the shield that he applies to his allies. Very quickly on his skills, he's a provoke champion. Provoke on the A1. The provoke debuff can be placed even if this attack lands as a weak hit. This is very important when we look at the A2. His A1 also heals the ally with the lowest HP by 15% of the damage inflicted. So some damage on this champion is always good. It helps with the heals, alright? The A2 right here, guys, it's a double hitting attack. Provoke on the first attack and leech on the second attack. This is so good because provoke and leech are very important for you to help you survive a little bit longer. This also can be placed even if it lands as a weak hit, which means basically he's like a void champion in terms of the debuff that he can apply. All right, which is it's something that I do prefer on champions which apply debuffs. If they have this is very important because you can actually use him for progression. Very easy to use in terms of controlling waves compared to somebody else who just has, let's say, any kind of provoke that can be actually weak hit. The damage that he does can be a weak hit, but the debuffs will be applied. And his A3 attacks all enemies. Damage increased by 5% for each debuff on each enemy. Also heals all allies by 20% of the damage inflicted and places a shield buff on them for 2 turns, equal to 20% of the damage inflicted. That is huge. The damage increase is so good as well because it helps you with the shield that you get. This works great in the spider dungeon. I've tested this out. I'll show you guys in a bit. Remember, this is the early kind of progression kind of build with the immortal gear that you can get from doing clan boss. Of course, the 6 stars, it's not easy to get, but the 5 stars, that's just RNG, and you can get them from brutal and nightmare clan boss for sure. It just takes, you know, some time until you get lucky through the chest. All right, the gear overall, like 200 speed and 200 accuracy, that's what I went for, and about 60,000 health because I've got the HP bonuses from the immortal gear plus, all right, plus an 80% of the chest. I went for critical rate on the gloves because, as I said, you need a little bit of damage on him, so you don't need 100%. I would go with 85% and then push a little bit more crit damage. But as you can see, I don't even have a ring or a banner right here, and the reason is I just wanted to show, you know, with low stats. All right, and we'll look at more end game stats a little bit later, and I'm talking end game in the sense that you're trying to push for dungeons 20. All right, he can still work on dungeons 20, but it's gonna be easier when you're actually fully equipping a champion. So let's have a look at what he does first in the dungeons. I'll just show you this team that I've built very quickly. 4 rares, although they do have stun sets, some of them, because I use them for Doom Tower. He's there basically just to showcase the provokes and how he helps so much with control. It's like a team that you can easily build. All right, let's see the defense down. Look at that. Look at the leeches plus the provokes that we applied. Remember, we don't have him booked for this one, so it will have some of them not being provoked, which kind of sucks. But because he's at a 200 speed plus the speed boosting from Apothecary, we can see that he rotates through his skills very quickly, even with the longer cooldowns. That being said, I would suggest that if you have some books saved up so far, if you're like an early to mid game player, he is a very good candidate for booking. All right, very good candidate because that drops his A2 skill to a 3 turns cooldown. and with about 200 speed or so, he will rotate through that provoke very quickly. He reminds me of Miscreated Monster so much, but instead of having the stun on the A2, he has a provoke. And that being said, he also has a passive which I didn't show, which actually reduces damage taken by provoke targets by 15%. Plus, he also has an HP aura, which also helps a ton in terms of having that higher base HP, and also providing bigger damage to his skills because he's HP based. All right, and you can see that we're controlling the waves just fine, and this will go all the way to the boss, and Kale will slowly break down the boss. Nothing too crazy, but it does showcase how strong he is. With the same gear, let me show you Spider's Den 20. I haven't optimized the team at all, to be honest. So we'll just go in there, just see the shields that he can actually provide with the gear that we have. Remember, very basic gear, 68,000 health, 200 speed. We'll get a defense down now. Look at that. We do the provokes first here because I just want to have control of the Spiderlings a little bit. He is a little fast, so that's okay. Look at the Cold Hearts doing some damage. And then we'll get his A3 skill. Look at the shield now that he applies. Remember, he's no books at all, so his cooldowns are much longer for this showcase right now, which would have been better if he had the shorter cooldown. So the 3-turn provoke helps with the waves, and also the 4-turn shield, which helps with people surviving. That being said, Miscreant Monster is a little better in that because his shield is a 3-turn cooldown and not a 4-turn cooldown. So this one's a legendary. Miscreant Monster is an epic, very much different in terms of the booking requirements, but you can see the big shields. The team is gonna be failing, I believe. We do have the provoke now, but I don't think I'll actually be able to do this because the Cold Hearts are just built strong enough for this one. But you know, a defense down on the boss plus the Cold Hearts helps with a lot of damage. It just shows the power of Bivald in the sense of if you book him, you'll even see a better better results. And not only that, you have to remember his A2 skill. Remember that his A2 cannot be a weekend in terms of the provoke, right? The bad thing is that I don't have like any easy teams to fight. This is all endgame teams, and I wouldn't use him against these teams ever, which kind of sucks because I want to do a proper showcase. But I'll probably showcase this instead with the more endgame build where I can have access to to higher stats. But let's just see what he does here on the 1-person defense. It's not just a showcase of how to beat it, but we would boost here, and then we have something to remove the buffs. If you don't, then it's fine, but it's not really endgame because the enemies might have an immunity set. You remove the immunity sets, and then you have him speed tune with your booster. Remember, the first 3 champions, the buff remover and the champion that will be controlling the enemy, need to be speed tuned, and then your damage dealer doesn't have to be speed tuned. If this happens, your damage dealer can be at whatever speed you want. All right, and then you do your provoke because this cannot be a weak hit. No matter what happens, you'll provoke. It's gonna be 100% chance if you fully book this out also. All right, right now it's 75% chance, but the idea is there that if you book it, 100% chance to provoke. The provoke will land, all right, unless you get resisted 3% or you just don't have enough accuracy, right? The weak hits, we don't really matter. So we did this, we provoked, and that's pretty much it. We control now the whole team. Just have that in mind, and then we would do our nuke regardless of the speed of our nuker, and that would be the idea behind him being used in the arena. So let me just rebuild him very quickly, and we'll come back to see with higher stats and how much damage he can do, and then maybe some alternatives for the sets. I would say Immortal gear is not really the best. I would go instead with stun sets if you need a lot more control. Let's say the Doom Tower, because of his lower cooldowns, the stun set plus the 3 turns cooldown will be much better. Or I would say just straight up damage, you'll need Savage, but then again, you'll risk actually killing the small spiders in the spider dungeon and stuff like that. But Savage is not really ideal, but we can try it out and see what kind of numbers we can get out of this. All right, guys, the more late game gear is, of course, crit damage and savage on him. We want to see some big numbers, and also we want to see with his shorter cooldowns on how much his usefulness increases. I think he becomes way better with the shorter cooldowns. 3 turns duration, 4 books here, and 3 books here, plus another 4 books here. I think overall his book value is much greater than other future champions that we have so far. And just comparing that plus his whole utility overall makes him like a really good fusion and a not miss. Like, you shouldn't miss this fusion even if you think you're okay with the game. Like, he might be useful in something later on, especially the provokes, the weak hit, which he can never have basically on his debuffs. Makes him like a really cool champion to have. His accuracy now is way lower. I'm just looking for the big numbers. And if I just wanted to boost his accuracy a little bit more, I would go with an accuracy banner instead. In terms of masteries, I can again just remove the War Master, which I believe does not work, very similarly to how Miscreator Monster's shield doesn't work. You would need to go with something along these lines. Let's say you would go here. Let's go with the increased speed. Let's do Cycle of Violence. And then you'll go for Helm Smasher for extra ignoring of the defense. Maybe also use Methodical. This one as well. Let's go with this one. We're not looking for accuracy really with this build. We want to see bigger shields. And then we just go down this tree. And that's pretty much it. Maybe I wouldn't use Bring It Down because the increased damage inflicted by 6% when attacking targets with higher HP. That doesn't always work, but for dungeons specifically, that should work even though he's at like 90,000 health right now. So let's just go and have a look at what he does with now 266, but with Helm Smasher, and very quickly just understand on the difference. Just the difference here. Let's just go again, stage 20. Of course, you can push higher if you have him fully booked at this kind of gear. You can push higher, but you'll need to use a more balanced team, not just the rares. All right. You see the provokes, they're landing now at 100% chance. The stuns are through Stunstead, which I would also like to see on Bivald. Also, he look at the shield. Look at the shield that he does here with the damage. I haven't paused or anything, but his A1, look at that, 55,000. Very strong in terms of damage. I'm liking this guy a lot so far. Let's just see if we have A2 here. With War Mana, he's got his A2 available. This is the double hitting, remember. It can provoke, and also, even if it's a weak hit, we're fine with that. Let's see. Boom, boom. Look at those numbers. Look at the damage we dealt here. Almost brought them down to 30%. Remember, he's supposed to be the support type kind of champion. And if this was a better, like a non-weak hit dungeon, his damage would have been equal or even higher if he was strong affinity. Like if this was force, he would have done 20% more damage, right? So let's just leave. The damage is there. I want to see the shields in the spider dungeon, really. That's going to be the one that I want to be showcasing off. Spider dungeon, spider 20 again. Remember, this might not work on 25. 25 is more oftenly used with HP burn. But because he does have the control, you would do a different build with him as more of a support type instead of just, you know, let's do a 1 here. The shields, I expect them to be quite big, and it really depends. 4-turn cooldown, remember, is not as good as Miscreator Monsters, so have that in mind if you ever want to do that instead. Attacks all enemies, damage increased by 5% for each debuff on each enemy. So if you had something else, we would be seeing a much higher shield, I'm guessing. Let's see. Just look at the shields there. Look at the shields. Such a cool champion. He's actually gonna probably drop the waves also with his A2, and that's gonna help us because we won't have to worry about anybody dying, really. Extra turns there. That was a bit unlucky because she lost the shield. Look at that. He just kills all the waves, about 68k with just the defense down, by the way. The gear is quite good on him, so if you got that gear, you won't be having issues with Spider 20. But you see the potential is what I'm saying. With more debuffs on, a defense down is needed for sure. You could definitely have like a very solid run for the spider. Highly recommended to get this guy going. No questions asked. Get this guy. If you're not, you know, end game and you just don't care about the fusions, get him, right? The end game people don't even watch the videos on YouTube, right? So I like Bivald so good. He's not Brogni level. He doesn't have those unique shields. He's not that good as Brogni was, but he is very, very strong everywhere. Even in arena, I explained why he's gonna be strong as a lockout champion. Even with the damage potential, let's just look at that. In terms of damage potential, just straight up, I haven't tested that, but I'm so excited about this guy. Let's just go into a forest dungeon. Let's go to stage 21. Even with the higher defenses, I still think he's gonna be the one really showing how much we can do defense down weekend. And let's just do a battle Khazar. And where's this guy? And that's enough to just see the biggest numbers possible. Let's go. A2. We do here the poisons. Then we do more poisons. And now we should see some big numbers in terms of all the debuffs as well. Let's do the A3. Let's see. Boom. Look at that. 170k is something that I saw, I think. 170k. That's so good. And let's just run this again. And we want to see his A2 now. Of course, you won't have this kind of setup for waves. Like I could have used the Kaimar and then had him for the reset, but then what am I gonna do when I reach the boss? Probably battle Khazar killing the boss. But let's see his A2 here. Boom, 80k and then another 80k or so. Hits a little worse than the A3 because the A3 has obviously that bonus of it having more damage dealt because of the number of debuffs on the enemies. And let's see, boom, 200k there. Just very strong. I love this guy. Definitely be going for it on the free-to-play and on the main account. I think he is better than Magnar in terms of damage on his A2. Still thinking about that. With the same gear, I think he's gonna be better. I might do like a proper showcase again with the same gear exactly. Just move it on to Magnar and do a damage test. We also have the provoke there as well. This guy has also the extra damage mitigation through that. Very strong champion. Go for him. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.